Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of Mindset Shift. Our goal is still the same. We want to start thought-provoking conversations within the society so that we're able to transform the way we think, and henceforth, after every transformation, we believe that there's going to be a change within society. We always say as we begin that no man is an epitome of knowledge. So whatever that we talk about, we are saying this so that we can invoke a conversation within society so that you share what you know, we share what we also know, and we believe that ideally we end up achieving greatness within the society because of the knowledge that will be richly mixed so that it can achieve something that is great. Our goal in our conversations seem to align in all that we say. For everything that we have in a new episode correlates with what we've spoken about, but there is always a lot to learn. Today, we're going to have a fantastic conversation where we're going to be addressing the issue of mentorship and leadership. But under mentorship and under leadership, we're also going to be talking about essentials that include the falsehood that accesses the mentorship line and how that can be addressed. How is it that one is able to walk within a channel of leadership, but also attain that channel because of the existence of mentorship? How is mentorship very important within our society? Why is it that when you're still young and you're still walking within the line of realizing your potential, realizing your leadership capabilities, that you're supposed to walk within mentorship? But in every existing benefit to the life of an individual, there is a possibility that a cancer can intervene. How do you then deal with the falsehood that arises when you're working within mentorship? So that mentorship is not ideally considered as something that is useless within society, but it is accepted, even for its shortfalls that it carries, to then allow people to walk within a direction that is edified and a direction that is established. So talking about mentorship, we can't from the idea of mentorship without addressing the very line of leadership, what we've spoken about in previous episodes and how that is essential. We've spoken about it before where we say leadership within its entail, it's very broad. Leadership has nothing to do with titles that individuals have within society. But what leadership does is when the title comes, it simply exposes whether that individual that exists has got the leadership potential that is within them, or they don't have that. We've spoken about it when we say that leadership is actually, the title of leadership is actually a magnifying glass, where it simply shows what is already existing, and that is eventually what reveals to us whether you're an individual of wisdom or whether you're an individual that is simply a fool, but that person is holding a title of leadership. So when we talk about leadership, we've addressed 4 key important areas that should be very revelational to you even unto this day. The first thing that you're supposed to establish when you're walking within a line of leadership is for you to be able to understand identity and purpose. That is the foundation of the line of leadership. There is no leadership when an individual fails to understand their identity and henceforth fails to understand their purpose. Why is this so? Because in your creative capabilities, when you were created within a dimension that is different from the one that you live in now, which means that in the spiritual realm, as an individual and as an entity, you were formed. But when you were being formed, you were given particular abilities, particular capabilities that were made for you to then establish them when you arrive on this realm called Earth. But because this realm called Earth has got particular principles that it has, before that which was given in the spirit can actually show itself or manifest within Earth, there are certain principles that have to be undergone. So it's important for you to understand that the foundation of leadership is understanding your identity and your purpose, because this is what you come carrying from a higher dimension, but you come to make sure that it's effective on this particular dimension. So identity and purpose become paramount in terms of what you want to achieve. Second level of leadership that you're supposed to walk in before leadership becomes existent is you're supposed to have a vision. It's important once you've established your identity and your purpose that you develop a vision. A vision entails where you are going with the capabilities that you have been given before you get there. Now, we've got so many people that are running within life, moving with speed. But because there is no existent direction, that speed does not become a benefit. Because henceforth, you are moving towards a place that you don't know, a place that you don't understand. Henceforth, you have no driving force. The moment there is no driving force within you, then the reason why you continuously move and wake up wherever you go does not become existent. We've shown in multiple times that passion within itself, something that drives people to wake up at certain times, can drive you, but only for a season. So there are seasons that will come that passion may not really exist, the emotion may be gone, but because a vision keeps existing, it wakes you up. Eventually begins to create what we call influence. That particular influence becomes very important because you gain the hearts of men, and eventually you then walk within the line of leadership. So when we talk leadership, we're talking about these 4 key areas being addressed and these 4 key areas being achieved within the life of an individual so that person becomes a leader. When a leadership title then finds you after you've achieved these 4 key areas, it then exposes the quality of leadership that exists within you and shows the world that you have something to give and you henceforth can become effective. But we cannot talk about leadership. We cannot talk about the essence of leadership if we fail to talk about something called mentorship. Mentorship is very important because in the line of leadership, you understand that there are different paths that are walked by different people in different times and in different seasons. But with every season that an individual walks, what they establish within that season is called knowledge. They establish what we call experiences, and they establish what we call strategies. Now, every single time when we have an epitome or when we have an individual that walks within a line of leadership, in that particular generation, what they begin to establish, what they begin to see is knowledge. They begin to see experiences, and they begin to see strategies, which ultimately means that no matter which line of leadership you're going to walk, though the identity and the purpose may be slightly different from other people, but the knowledge, the experiences, and the strategies will exist because principles here on this earth do not change. Giving was a principle 2,000 years ago. Giving is a principle today, and giving is going to be a principle 2,000 years later, which means that in the knowledge and the accumulation of experiences of individuals, these things shall remain. There are certain principles that are never going to change. So your inability to have access to the knowledge, access to the experiences, and access to the strategies of the previous generation that walked in the path that you walked means that every single time when you're going to walk your own path, you're going to have to re-experience those experiences and henceforth take the same time that it was supposed to take, a shorter time for you to experience that. When we spoke about inheritance in previous episodes, we spoke about how when a generation is working on a project today, when they pass it on to the next generation, what they pass on is not merely the rewards of the project they were working on, but they pass on the knowledge, the experiences, and the strategies that is given so that the next generation does not have to take as long as it took for the others to take that particular same step. So you realize that when mentorship exists, it ultimately means that the rewards and the results that were difficult 20 years ago should be made easier today because the experiences that were experienced by others can now be known by this particular generation, which means that there are certain faults that your fathers experienced that you are not supposed to experience because they will simply tell you that this is the way to go. A famous story happened when a very old man was asked by the son, how is it that you were able to stay in marriage for all the years that you stayed in? And this is what the man said. The man says to the man who was, for you to be able to stay in the longevity of marriage as a man, learn to apologize even when you don't have a reason to apologize for. Now, the moment he did that, he had already transferred a particular strategy from one generation to another that would eventually allow this individual to stay in the longevity of marriage that he had realized within 52 years. So 52 years of experience can simply be passed down through what we call mentorship, henceforth allowing the results that were achieved in a longer period to be achieved in a shorter period. So mentorship becomes a very essential position when we talk about the aspect of leadership. Mentors have to exist. Mentorship involves passing on the baton that existed in a different generation and passing it on to the next generation. Why is mentorship then important? It is important because every principle that is stored within the experiences is passed on to the next generation and henceforth assist them. But when we talk about mentorship, we need to understand that there are 3 fundamental structures within mentorship that we are supposed to talk about. The first structure involves an entity, and that particular entity is the one who mentors. The one who mentors has got roles that they're supposed to play when we talk about this aspect called mentorship. There is no existence of mentorship without an existing mentor. But for us to know the importance of the mentor, we need to know the roles that the mentor is meant to play. And when the mentor does not keep these roles, it means that it distorts the channel of mentorship. Remember, we also want to address the falsehood that can exist the moment there is mentorship. So when we talk about a mentor, there are key areas and there are key qualities and there are key roles that every single mentor is meant to play. The first role that every mentor is meant to play is correction. When you have a mentor, you understand that they are your mentor by their ability and their position to be able to correct you. Because when you are a mentee and you are listening to what a mentor is saying, correction is always going to come. After correction, we also have what we call direction. Mentors do not really formulate the path that you're supposed to walk. But when there is a path, they're able to assist you in terms of the direction to take. So mentors understand the position of directing you. Because if you have an individual that has gone to a particular place before, that individual, when you have not reached there, they're able to direct you to say, if you want to go to South Africa, this is the route that you can use. If you want to go to Mozambique, if you want to go to Zambia, this is the route that you can use. So mentors are supposed to be able to direct you, which means that it is henceforth impossible for you to have a mentor that has not gone where you want to go, that has not arrived in an environment that you also believe is possible, but you may have not reached there. When you find yourself being mentored by a lion and yet you're an elephant, be very careful that when you're thirsty, the lion might lead you to go and hunt for impalas. Understand that the mentor that you're supposed to have should have gone to the place that you want to go. Henceforth, they're able to map and direct you as to how to get there. After that, you also have supplication. Mentors should offer supplication. They should stand in the gap of where you may be unable to do so at that particular time. And the supplication aspect is very important, because if you have a mentor that does not hear from God, it ultimately means that they've summed up their experiences and their results void of the one that can maintain those particular results. It is dangerous for you to have a mentor that does not hear from God. And you're going to understand that because when we spoke about the dynamics of leadership and we spoke about identity, we spoke about how that identity comes from a higher authority, which is God. So if a mentor does not hear from God, then how are they maintaining the results they think they're earning? Because the one who's meant to reveal what true identity is God. So ultimately, when a mentor is able to get results and yet they don't hear from God, it means that they don't have a sustainable aspect when it comes to the results that they have. Henceforth, they become very dangerous for your life, because it means that at a time where these results can no longer be sustained, they don't have a place to go back to so that they can re-engage the existence of results, re-engage the existence of the pathway that they have. Henceforth, a mentor should have the aspect of supplication to show that there is a position where even your mentor can be accountable to a higher authority for the results that they've achieved. So this is essential. Lastly, a mentor offers what we call covering. Now, most people have abused the term covering because they believe that covering is you simply being in an institution where a mentor is. So if we look at believers, they believe that if you're found in the church where your mentor is, you have covering. If you're found in a business where your mentor is, you have covering. It is very falsehood, it's big falsehood for you to think that just by being in an institution where your mentor is, you are covered. You are not covered. Covering is to the degree at which you are willing to take instruction. True covering actually comes the moment there is instruction. Now we see that even when God created Adam and Eve, God left Adam with instruction, and his presence was always there with him. Because the Lord believed as long as he respects the instruction I've given, presence will never be a problem for him. Your ability to remain close to your mentor is not you being in the institution that he is supposed to be in, but is you respecting the instruction that he is meant to give. This even applies to people that go to church. You believe that being in church ultimately gives you the benefits of being in church. That is wrong and that is falsehood. But the moment you take instruction in that environment, then it means that you are correlated and you're always connected to the covering that exists within that particular field. Because when you respond to instruction, it means you're obedient to the authority that you have. So people that say they have mentors, yet they are not willing to receive instruction, and yet they are not willing to obey the instruction, they are not covered. Because the covering you're meant to have is to the degree that you are willing to engage to the instruction that you have been given. When we come from the mentor, now we come to the mentee, which is you, the one that is receiving from the mentor. What is your role? It's important for you to understand that the first thing that you're supposed to do as a mentee is you're supposed to be disciplined. The road of mentorship comes with a lot of challenges, comes with a lot of principles, comes with a lot of lessons. Your inability to be disciplined means that you will not last the test of time. Time does not respond to people that desire the outcomes or the results that come with principles. Time only responds to those that remain. So the test of time is something that we are all going to go through. And that test of time, it is significantly dependent upon your discipline as an individual. The second part is your manifestation. It is very essential for us to understand that if we look at even the New Testament, there is a time where a servant of God is being given a direction. And when he is given that direction, it is said that for this ministry that was given to you by God, you are supposed to make it manifest. I thought when you are given something by God, that immediately because you have been given, that is going to manifest. But I then come to manifestation is as a position of what you as a mentee are willing to do, not necessarily what God is making available for you. So God can make many mentors be available for you that are actually giving adequate information, adequate principles, but your inability to follow that which they are saying is going to limit what we call manifestation. So manifestation is as to the degree that you as a mentee are willing to take upon the principles that have been taken and henceforth put them to act. You may have teachers at school that can teach you the subjects that you're supposed to have, but the expectancy of you passing in class is your ability to listen to what they're saying, apply what they're saying, and henceforth be able to pass the test of time. So manifestation cannot exist if you as a mentee are not willing to engage with the principles that have been made available to you, and henceforth you cultivate them to make them essentially available and adequately important to this world. The other thing that you are meant to do as a mentee is to be accountable. One of the reasons why young people do not make it within spheres of politics, spheres of economics, spheres of even the church is because they are not accountable to the act and the actions that they give. When you talk about the road of mentorship, you are ultimately assuming the role and the position of one who is learning. One who is learning can make mistakes, one who's learning can make results. Your inability to be accountable for both your results and both the mistakes that you make means that you've lost a key ingredient for leadership, which is humility. It takes humility for you to understand that sometimes you are right, sometimes you are wrong, but never give precedence to your ability, whether you are right or wrong. Always be accountable to a particular system that can direct you as to how to handle the times of mistakes and how to handle the times of results. This is the position of mentorship. Are you willing to take the results back to the mentor that is working with you? Are you able to also take those mistakes back to that particular mentor? It's important for you to be accountable. When you can be an accountable individual that is disciplined and that is manifesting the lessons and the principles that they are getting, then you have become a mentee that is capable of achieving results. However, the one who surmounts and correlates everything in the line of mentorship is God. Understand that when you have a mentor that hears from God, the mentor's ability to draw you to whom they heard from is more important than their ability to make you get their results. Mentorship is already complete when a mentor can make you hear from the one that he had, even if you don't get the results he got. Because ultimately, the moment that particular mentor is able to take you to where he heard, which is from God, he has given you the blueprint for you to be successful even in his absence. The mistake with so many mentors of our generation is they are able to make you achieve results. But because they don't allow you to hear the God they had, when they leave, you begin to crumble because the results that you were getting were paramount to them being present. True mentors, even in their absence, are still able to allow you to walk in the path they were walking, even greater, because they have taken you to the God they had. It is also an insurance policy for you if you hear from the God he had, because it's not all mentors that will walk in the right channel till death. So if you are being led by a mentor that is going to direct or divert his route along the way, it means that because you listen and you heed to him and his instruction or his instruction, you may also fall. So ultimately, what makes mentorship true is when there is a relationship with God. This is because God paves the way of the leadership walk that you're supposed to walk, because ultimately, because he was your creator, he is the one that gave you the identity as a mentee. He also gave the same identity to your mentor. So you need to then hear from God. God offers the pathway. God offers the ability, the enablement. God offers the wisdom, the favor, the grace, the mercy that you need within your life. And above it all, he assures you that that which you achieve as results can effectively contribute to the purpose that you have. Because remember, ultimately, leadership is not about the results we attain, but it's about what did we do with those results to contribute to what they were meant to achieve. Every vision that one has is given provision. What's dangerous is you have a vision, you are given provision, then the results you attain no longer contribute to where you're going, because you'll be questioned. What did you achieve with that which you were given to eventually make it useful? But this journey of leadership has got hurdles. It's got challenges. How is it that within every season that one walks, that they are able to address what they meet? One of the greatest line of mentorship that we see in biblical terms was the mentorship program that existed between Elijah and Elisha. Now, we always talk about the time where Elijah meets Elisha, and we emphasize on the time where a mantle, as people say, fell and he received a double portion. So most people now have limited the mentorship criteria to be simply an impartation that exists when a cloth falls and you pick it up. But we don't understand that in between the time Elijah meets Elisha and the time Elisha collects the cloth, that there was a process that existed in between. That was a process of mentorship. Within that process, capacity was being built. Development of a man who eventually would receive a physical representation that they had attained, the spirit and the power of a man that was about to live. Our problem as a young generation is we are too focused on what happens when the cloth falls and he picks it up, but we are not focused on the process that had to exist for it to be made possible. It could have been possible that Elisha could have missed the moment to pick the cloth if he had not succumbed to the things that had existed before that were meant to break him, but eventually build him as to an individual that is willing to attain that particular process. But you need to understand that this process is a process where it's hidden. It seems like nothing is happening within that process, but capacity is being built. A typical example is seen when Elisha finds a woman that had a jar of oil. And that particular jar of oil, she is told that go and get jars and begin to pour oil within those particular jars. But he says, as you are doing this, shut the door. Shutting the door is a representation that when capacity is being built for one to be announced, that there is a shutting of the door. There are things that are done that people may not see. But what is happening there is paramount and is imminent to the announcing of what is going to be great. So when Elisha receives the cloth, something has already happened in between that is essential for him to get to that position. 4 key things that happen within the process before Elisha collects the mantle. The first thing is, as he was following Elijah, he passes a place called Gilgal. Now, this place was known as a place where individuals leave their former life and transform to see life in a different way. So it is essential for you to understand when you walk in the line of mentorship, the first test of your ability to last within the road of mentorship and the process of mentorship is your ability to look away from things you used to know and look into things that are about to be new. Because when you're walking into mentorship, you have to unlearn certain things that existed behind you and begin to focus on things that are about to come. The most difficult things for human beings is change. But every single successful story of human beings came because of change. So change is something we don't like, yet change is the only thing required for us to live better lives. So the first test of mentorship is, are you able to change the way you used to see things and begin to learn new things? The first test of mentorship is not your ability to lie and say with your words that I'm loyal to a man. No. But it's your ability to leave that which you were used to, that which you were seeing, and begin to walk a different path. Elisha has to leave the place where he was continuously working to begin to follow Elijah, whom is about to introduce him to a new life totally. So in your line of mentorship, what is it that you left that is able to give weightage to the desires that you have within the journey of mentorship that you're walking? The second place that they visit or they pass is a place called Bethel. Now, Bethel is known as the place of encounters. It's known as the place of transformation. The moment one begins to turn away from things that they're used to, and they're turning away from a life they used to live, things they used to know, they then enter a place where the new knowledge that they've now attained begins to transform them, begins to change their mind, begins to change their way of place. So when you pass through Bethel, understand that transformation is going to exist. Encounters are going to exist. Why do encounters exist? Because in changing the way you used to see things, you are also being exposed to the God that Elijah met whilst you are being given information and the possibilities of things that existed from there. The moment they passed through the place called the place of Bethel, which was the encounters and was also the place of transformation, they then go into a place called Jericho. Now, Jericho becomes the place where one begins to find victory to the degree of their obedience. So here in Jericho, what is happening is the things that you have encountered within Bethel, the transformation that existed, you are now being tested as to the degree that you are willing to obey the principles and the encounters that you now know so that you're able to find victory. Which means in the place of Jericho, whilst you're walking within mentorship, you're going to be tested as to, are you going to be able to find expression through the very things that you have learned before? It's a test. Mentors even know this. They know that due to the path that I've walked with this young man, with this young lady, at what point am I able to say this person has begun to find results because of their degree with which they are willing to be obedient? Lastly, there comes a place called Jordan. Now, Jordan is the place where mentors are no longer there. Mentors have left. Mentors have completed their season. They've allowed you to change your life. They've allowed you to encounter and to be transformed. They've tested you. Your obedience has started to get results. But now they're no longer there. They're out of the picture. The journey of mentorship has ended. But because you need to continue the pathway of your leadership, that is when you have to see that when you meet the Jordan, but now you are alone. Because when you are alone and he has left and you can still achieve results, it is a message even to those that watch that surely this person has managed to grasp something from the previous generation and is about to make sure that it operates in the new generation. Not only its operational potential, but for it to multiply from the position that it was coming from. This is the journey of mentorship. And to close this episode, how then does falsehood exist when mentorship is being driven? It exists the moment a mentor leads you to himself, the mentor leads you to herself, and does not lead you to the God they had. Because what happens is that even humanity can appear in mentors. Sometimes they may end up saying things that are not right, things that are not okay. But if they'd made you hear the God they had, that God will even allow you to gain the wisdom as to how to deal with the moment that there is falsehood that exists within mentors. We see this in the Bible between the young prophet and the old prophet, where the young prophet is told by God not to go in a particular place and eat. But the old prophet comes and says, do we not all hear from God? Come into my house and eat. Yet the old prophet was lying. But when God comes to rebuke the young prophet, after the young prophet does what he was told not to do, God sends the old prophet, because mentors, fathers, will still have the position to correct you, and says to the young prophet, the Lord had said to me, why have you disobeyed what I told you? Because you have done that, you shall surely die. Death does not come to the old prophet, does not come to the mentor, does not come to the father. It comes to you, the mentee, because you failed to grasp the importance of mentorship. Hear the God they had to allow you to survive in seasons that they are absent or they are no longer walking in the same path where God was supposed to walk. This has been an exceptional episode. Like we always say, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your comments. We want to hear the messages that you want to say, corrections that you want to say, additions, subtractions. Understand that no man is an epitome of knowledge. As you are learning, we are also learning, and eventually we are creating an atmosphere where we can all develop a mentality that can impact the society. We hope to hear from you soon, and we hope to make sure that we see you again in the next episode, where we discuss greater things about mentorship, greater things about leadership, and we persist in the goal to start thought-provoking that are able to change your mind as it changes our mind, and we're able to impact society. Thank you once again, and we hope to see you soon. Till then, stay blessed.